Hello, hello, hello. This is Misty Magdalena Grace with the new and improved version of Healthy and Wealthy and Wise, where we talk about spirituality, psychedelics, plant medicine, microdosing, and really that journey within to finding your best innate wisdom, to your best health, your best wealth through all sorts of inner child healing, trauma release, grief recovery, overcoming addictions, and working with the mind, the body, and spirit. So go ahead, leave a review, subscribe, download. We look forward to your feedback. Thanks for tuning in today. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Misty Magdalena Grace for a monologue episode that just came to me through just my own connected channel, a divinely inspired message that I actually got while I was doing my Kundalini yoga. And that's where I get a lot of downloads these days, is when I'm exercising, taking care of my body, and my mind is open. A lot of times I tell people it's best to heal the mind through the body and the spirit. And so that's how these messages come through. And I had a realization about this thing called the midlife crisis. If you've never, first of all, I just want to welcome you to my channel. If you've never listened to me before, I am a medicine woman. I'm a shadow work specialist. I specialize in working with couples and mompreneurs to help them remember who they truly are, to live their best life, to heal mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally, a lot of times through grief recovery, addiction recovery. And of course, what's happening on the planet right now is a spiritual awakening. And so when I heard this message coming through, I realized this midlife crisis thing is something that I technically could say I went through. It's no coincidence that most of our clients, not all, but probably 80% of our clients are in the age range of 40 to 60, which again, depending on who you talk to, that is the definition of midlife, assuming that you lived maybe 80, 90, or yes, even 100 years old. And I wanted to share with you what I've learned over the past 2.5 years of my own healing work and then independent study of my mind, my body, and my spirit. First of all, let's define what a midlife crisis is according to a few different channels. First of all, Webster's dictionary defines it as a period of emotional turmoil in middle age caused by the realization that one is no longer young, and usually is characterized by a strong desire for change. So Webster defines it more as emotional turmoil, and maybe also I would add in there a realization of our own mortality, being technically halfway through a life. Another source said a midlife crisis is often seen as a period of self-reflection, questioning, and emotional turmoil that can come in a middle adulthood, usually happening for people in their 40s and 50s. They even said it's 3 stages. There's a trigger, could be a divorce, could be a death in the family, could be a job loss or career change. After that trigger, there's a search for meaning. And after that search for meaning, there's a level of what they called acceptance. And then finally, calm.com defined it as this. The definition of a midlife crisis is a period of transition in life where someone struggles with their identity and self-confidence. It happens anywhere from 40 to 60 years old and affects both men and women. And according to this, it's interesting, they say a midlife crisis is not a disorder, but is mainly psychological. So interestingly enough, these definitions are all focusing on emotional and mental. And I started the show talking about how I have learned through my own dark night of the soul, my own spiritual awakening, and now as a medicine woman and spiritual teacher. And I've coached over 10,000 people in my time with health, fitness, nutrition, body, mind work, and now spiritual work. It's very interesting what I've learned in my own teaching of the truth about a midlife crisis. It is not just merely an emotional breakdown or a psychological breakdown. It's so much more. And truly, if you've heard me say this before, I've shared my story. In my early 40s, by then I had lost my mom, my dad, my brother. I've also lost 12 friends to suicide. But when I hit my rock bottom, it was 8, and so seeing all this death, forced me to look at my own life and how much time I had left on this earth. And I didn't really care for what I saw. In fact, I was open to having my life be done. That's how rock bottom it was for me. And of course, I thought it was just mental and emotional as well. I thought I was having an emotional breakdown. My mind was going crazy and frenetic. A lot of people have been talking about that happening for them. Their mind is racing and their emotions are all over the place. Can anybody else relate to that? Well, here's what I learned through continued education and through my own wrestling with these mental thoughts and these emotional turmoils. Some of the emotions were so bad throughout my healing process, I still thought I should probably die. It might be better, might be easier, you know? Well, there's so much more to the story. And I've seen this in myself, my clients. You know, I saw patterns. A lot of our childhood trauma oftentimes revolved around these main themes: overwhelming amount of fear, overwhelming of abandonment, fear of rejection, loss, which all of that also brings up that conversation of grief. I lost all those people. A lot of people, when they're in their 40s and 50s and 60s, they're losing family and friends, right? Ultimately, there was these other emotions along with fear, rejection, abandonment, shame, guilt, and addictive behaviors or patterns. And I'm not just talking about alcohol or drugs, none of that. Actually, those are symptoms of the underlying causes, which is limiting beliefs, guilt, shame, lack of forgiveness. So it was more than a body-mind connection even. If you've read the book, The Body Keeps the Score, you learn how our bodies hold on, our organs hold on, our cells. That's why a lot of people manifest dis-ease that may eventually, kill them, because their body has held on to trauma for decades, possibly even lifetimes, connected to our ancestral DNA and the things that we were born into, dis-ease that, runs in the family, addiction that runs in the family, all of these things I've talked about in one way, shape, or form inside of my podcast. The system that isn't talked about that is related to trauma, related to our body, is the chakra system, which is very ancient. I'm not going to go into a chakra training today. I'm going to share a little bit just to kind of connect the dots. So when our body keeps the score, you have to think about, what does our body all contain besides skin, cells, DNA, blood, bones? We have our spine and our central nervous system, and our major organs, our heart, our kidneys, our lungs, our digestive tract, our sexual organs are all connected to that spine and central nervous system. The central nervous system is, of course, made up of the brain and the spinal cord, and that's our whole body's processing center. And since the brain controls most of the functions of the body, and we also have a heart brain and a gut brain, everything from our awareness, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our movement, our senses are connected to the brain and the spinal cord, which again is the heart brain, the gut brain. All of that is connected. And within that spinal cord system are the chakras, starting from the root chakra at the base of our spine, then the sacral, which goes through our sexual organs, reproductive system, up through our digestive tract and sternum, which is where our solar plexus chakra is, through our heart. We have the heart chakra, our throat, our vocal cords, again, all still connected to the spine and the central nervous system and the brain and the spinal cord. Then you go up all the way through our face muscles, where between our eyes, our eyebrows, is what's known as the third eye chakra. And then finally, at the top of our skull, which houses, again, our brain, you have the crown chakra. So this is not a coincidence, right? So here's the deal. Our chakras is Sanskrit for wheel, if they're not open and spinning, it shuts down our life force, our prana, our chi, our energy. So even if you don't know what prana, life force, or chi are, although it's not that difficult to understand life force, so not to get too esoteric, but when you die, your body stays behind, but your life force, your soul leaves the body. So this is a huge component of the makeup of our life that's inside of our spinal cord and central nervous system. So literally everything we do is connected to our chakras, since it's inside of our spinal cord, central nervous system, and our brain. So every thought, feeling, eating, breathing, sleeping, pooping, sexual activity, visualization, seeing, hearing, tasting, all of it is still connected to our chakra system as well. So when I started studying chakras in my own healing process, but as well as continuing education as the medicine and woman and healer that I am today, I learned that every one of our chakras was with us when we were born. However, they all developed at a different rate. They all developed in their own timing. And depending on who you study with and who you trust and who you believe, I'm going to let you decide this. If you agree with me or not is totally fine. Doesn't matter to me. I'm just sharing with you what I know and what I believe to be true today and what I've seen now with my clients over the past year and a half, almost 2 years of working with mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional health and well-being. So when we're born, we have all 7 chakras, the ones that I listed. However, they developed roughly, give or take, every 7 years of our life. So I'm going to run this through so it can help you explain getting up into our 40s and 50s, explaining how it's connected to this thing called midlife crisis. Okay. So you have the root chakra, and that's at the base of the spine. If the root chakra is blocked and the wheel is not spinning, that's usually blocked by feelings of abandonment, rejection, loss, lack of safety, fear. And that root chakra develops from 0 to 7. So there's tons of abandonment. There's tons of all sorts of potential for fear. You just got taken out of your mother's womb and you're in this whole new world. You feel like an alien. And there's a whole nother conversation we don't have time for. But what's happening at that time frame is you're developing your emotional pain body. So there's a lot of things that are happening for us in our development. We're learning how to cry when we're hungry. We're learning how to cry when our diaper is not changed. And if we're left crying for too long and not soothed and supported, that can create micro traumas of all sorts of fear and abandonment and rejection, right? So yes, our root chakra is blocked a lot throughout our life. And that's where we don't feel safe. We might turn to alcohol. We might abandon ourselves. There's lots of things that are connected to that I won't get into. So that's from 0 to 7. From 7 to 14 is when our sacral chakra is developed, and that is often blocked by guilt. From ages 14 to 21, our solar plexus is developed. That's when a lot of our physical development, puberty, and all of that kind of stuff happens. That can be blocked by shame and disempowerment. So giving our power away to people, places, addictions, substances. Between ages of 14 and 21, you might lose your virginity. You're developing at a physical rate. You might start to drink alcohol or do drugs for the first time. You might start a job, start working for other people, things of that nature. You might get leadership roles. You go to college. There's all of these possibilities that may cause shame and giving your power away, figuring yourself out. You have your sense of freedom leaving high school, right? Graduation's happening all over right now while I'm doing this recording. So that's very an easy time to get also kind of led astray and give your power away, and also maybe being ashamed from where you're from. I mean, there's so many layers to that. And again, that's from the ages of 14 to 21. Chakra 4 is the heart. That's often blocked by loss, grief, and anger. That develops between ages 21 through 28. Chakra 5, throat. That's blocked by shutting down your voice, not being seen, being heard, and or speaking lies or mistruths, not speaking your truth, which that's developed between ages 28 to 35. You might be getting married. You might be making a career change. You might be married and already on your way to a divorce, things of that nature. Family issues oftentimes can happen during that time. You're trying to get a deeper sense of freedom, but you're not speaking your truth. So that's a huge time of development. for that throat chakra. Sixth chakra, third eye, that is developed between 35 and 42. So now you start seeing not all, but most of your chakras have opened or starting to be fully developed. And that's actually age 42 is when I had, the most significant, darkest pain in my life. And so my third eye was definitely blocked. I wasn't trusting myself. I wasn't trusting my inner sight, my inner wisdom. My vision was completely blocked. And then the seventh chakra opens and is fully developed by the time you're between ages 42 through 49. So to me, with what I experienced myself and now working with hundreds of clients over the past 2 years in this, especially this spiritual awakening, expanding time, your midlife crisis is not just mental. It's all of it. It's the mental, it's the emotional, it's the physical, and the spiritual. And I put chakra in the spiritual camp, but you could combine it with the physical because the chakras are like literal wheels meant to be open. But if you have multiple ones blocked, no wonder you can't see the forest for the trees. No wonder you're starting to question things. You're starting to reflect more. Maybe you're struggling with depression, anger, anxiety, all of these things that start stacking upon one another, and you feel like you might explode, or you're going for divorce, or you're going for a major life changing career. Like I made a major life change career by becoming a healer and a spiritual teacher. It's not what I was planning for myself when I was 42. My husband, he turned 50 in 2020, and guess what? Boom, all of a sudden his crown chakra opened up and he was getting visited night after night after night by ghosts. So if these chakras are blocked, maybe they're trying to get open, but maybe you're just going the talk therapy route. No matter how much talk therapy you have, you're still blocked. Or maybe you're just going the spiritual route. You're just doing Reiki or energy healing or maybe plant medicine, but you're not working with the physical, the nutrition, the exercise, the movement. You could actually be not really getting full release, the somatic release through breath work, other modalities and things of that nature. And you might feel lost, dazed, and confused still. You might still be, maybe you're focusing on the physical and spiritual, but you're not working with the mental body and you're not able to focus. So this is why I'm sharing this, to get you to think, to really question, are you taking a holistic, integrative approach with this midlife crisis? Or are you just taking a one modality approach? Like for me, plant medicine was great, but it wasn't enough. For me, talk therapy was cool, grief counseling was cool, but it wasn't enough. Exercising just for the sake of exercising and cleansing for the sake of cleansing wasn't enough. And doing energy healing or Reiki just by itself wasn't enough. So I'm putting all this on the table for you to really reflect. Not that you can do them all at once either. I will say that. This is why most of our clients, we encourage them to work 3, 6 months, maybe even a year of holistic integrative strategies that both me and my husband can help you with the mental, emotional, physical, and the spiritual. So I open this up to plant seeds for you. If you're feeling lost, dazed, and confused, and maybe you've only been focusing on one area, the mental, the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, maybe you want to consider looking at one, eventually all four, because I feel like that's what we need in this spiritual awakening time, to heal the mental body, to heal the emotional pain body. And then, of course, the physical is where it manifests last. But oftentimes, sadly, I know for myself, I gained a bunch of weight. I had a lot of stress. My autoimmune disease was out of whack. So finally, that's what got my attention, right? The pain of the physical and the emotional was awful too. But why wait till you hit rock bottom? Why wait till you have to have a disease or a diagnosis or a divorce or whatever? Or in the case of the midlife crisis, why do you have to wait till it gets really, really bad before you start to make those daily lifestyle and holistic integrative mind, body, spirit changes? So if any of this resonates, and it may not, and that's perfect. I feel like it's really an important conversation to have if you're in your 40s, 50s, heck, even 60s. It's never too late. Have you worked with cleansing and clearing your chakras and your physical and your emotional pain body to then heal the mind? A lot of people focus on the mental or the emotional, but not the physical and the spiritual. And so if this resonated with you and you're like, you know what, Magdalena, I really like what you're having to say, then I'd love for you to email me at support@microdosingforhealth.com and set up a free consultation with either myself or my husband. If you know someone who's struggling with this spiritual awakening or midlife crisis, please hit the share button or share this interview with them. And feel free to even check out my website, microdosingforhealth.com, just to be able to connect with more messages like this, even following with my podcast and staying tuned for more episodes as we go through 2024 and 2025. If you saw my last interview with Franco Romero talking about the predictions for the second half of the year in 2025, there's a lot of people going to be waking up. And again, you may not even call it a midlife crisis. You might just be calling it a crisis of conscience, a crisis of identity, a crisis of grief, a crisis of feeling lost, dazed, and confused. It's all kind of the same thing. No matter what age you are, you're probably feeling it. And we want to be here for you. So don't hesitate. Again, please email me, support@microdosingforhealth.com. And let's have a free cup of coffee, a virtual, no strings attached conversation about where you're at. If even I can't help you, I can refer you to someone who can. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this maybe shed some light for those of you. I didn't have this information when I started my own quote unquote midlife crisis. So please spread the word. And until next time, wishing you all the best. Here's to your best health, your best wealth, and going inward and finding that best wisdom to help you on this journey. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Please subscribe, download, leave a 5-star rating or review, and also please refer this to a friend you know who may benefit from this inspirational message. We hope to see you again. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel or join my Facebook community. And if you are looking to manifest your best health, your best wealth by trusting your best wisdom within, please go to my website, www.microdosingforhealth.com. Again, www.microdosingforhealth.com to quiet your mind, get into your heart, heal your body, and manifest your best health and your best wealth.